Iran. The government shut down the internet. Hundreds of people were arrested. Filming a bombed building could send you to prison. Also, Iran. A 19-year-old wrestler was executed. A Nobel Peace Prize winner is seriously ill in prison. Lebanon. In just 3 weeks, 121 children were killed. 370,000 children were forced from their homes. The United Nations. 390 UN aid workers have been killed in 2 years. That has never happened before in the history of the United Nations. Burkina Faso. Over 1,800 civilians were killed since 2023. Entire communities were wiped out. Human rights groups are calling it a crime against humanity. Bangladesh. 3 former military generals were arrested. They are accused of murder and torture. This is the first time anyone has faced justice for what happened in 2007. And in 2024, attacks on schools increased by 44% worldwide. 52 million children could not go to school because of violence. This is the Human Rights Weekly. Let's begin. In Iran, the internet has been shut down. Blackout began on the 28th of February. That is more than a month without access to the internet. At the United Nations Human Rights Council, the High Commissioner Volker Turk spoke directly about this.
The Iranian authorities have intensified their crackdown on civic space. Law enforcement authorities have repeatedly said that dissent will be treated as collaboration with the enemy.
What does that mean in practice? If you film a bombed building, you can be arrested. If you talk about the conflict online, you can be arrested. If you share information the government does not like, you can be arrested. Authorities are calling this spreading enemy narratives. Journalists, activists, and public figures have been placed under surveillance. The United Nations says hundreds of people have been arrested for this reason.
War does not reduce the responsibility of the Iranian authorities to abide by their human rights obligations.
These are not new tactics, but the scale is new. One single day, 446 people were arrested for what they posted on social media. Human Rights Watch documented this. Iran has 31 provinces. Attacks have struck all 31 of them. According to Iranian authorities, more than 1,900 civilians have been killed. Homes, hospitals, schools, courts, transport, all damaged or destroyed. And through all of this, the internet is off. People of Iran are caught between two things: war from outside and repression from within. Now to a story that stopped many people when they read it. On the 19th of March, Iran executed Saleh Mohammadi. He was 19 years old. He was a competitive wrestler. He had won medals at national competitions. One day before, on the 18th of March, Iran executed Kurosh Kivani. He was a dual Swedish-Iranian citizen. Sweden protested. Iran did not respond. Human Rights Watch says these executions are part of a larger pattern. Political prisoners are at serious risk. Many were convicted in closed trials. Many confessions were obtained through torture. In Iran's prisons right now, there is another name you need to know. Narges Mohammadi. She won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2023. She was awarded the prize while she was already behind bars. She has spent most of the last decade in an Iranian prison. Her health is now seriously deteriorating. She has been denied proper medical care. Her family has not been allowed to visit. Human Rights Watch is calling on Iran to release her immediately. The United Nations has also raised her case multiple times. A 19-year-old athlete, a Nobel laureate who is slowly getting sicker. These are the people inside Iranian prisons right now. Now to Lebanon. UNICEF's country representative spoke at the United Nations on the 27th of March. His message was simple and devastating.
Just in 3 weeks, more than 370,000 children have been forced out of their homes here in Lebanon, which is an average of at least 19,000 girls and boys displaced every single day.
370,000 children. In 3 weeks, that is roughly 20% of Lebanon's entire population that is now displaced. And for the children who survived, the numbers are still shocking. At least 121 children have been killed. 399 more have been injured. UNICEF's representative described meeting a girl named Zaina. She was 11 years old. She was in a shelter in Beirut, the same school where she had taken refuge 18 months before.
And she told me she'd never imagined that she would live these days again, sleeping with many people around her, listening to the sound of shelling and bombing almost every night.
435 public schools in Lebanon are now being used as shelters. That means more than 150,000 students have stopped going to school. Education has simply stopped. The water system is also damaged. In some areas, bombing destroyed water reservoirs and pumping stations. Tens of thousands of people have no access to clean water. UNICEF says it is responding, delivering medicine, water, and emergency supplies. But the need is much larger than the response. Now to a number that the United Nations says it has never seen before. 390. That is how many United Nations staff members have been killed in the past 2 years. In the entire 80-year history of the United Nations, nothing like this has ever happened. Filipe Lazzarini is the Commissioner General of UNRWA, the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees. On the 31st of March, he gave his final press conference before the end of his term. He was emotional and he was direct.
But at that time, I did not imagine that the number of colleagues killed would triple, now reaching more than 390. Many others have sustained life-changing injuries or have been arbitrarily detained and tortured.
And the attacks were not just on people. Hundreds of UNRWA buildings in Gaza have been damaged or destroyed. Armed police forcibly closed UNRWA schools and health clinics. Local authorities cut electricity and water to UNRWA facilities. The UNRWA headquarters in the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood of Jerusalem was seized. It was looted. It was set on fire. Senior Israeli officials celebrated this on video, and those videos were widely shared.
These attacks are unprecedented in the 80 years history of the United Nations. They violate international law, as recognized by the International Court of Justice, and erode the United Nations Charter.
Lazzarini also warned about money. UNRWA has been running at a loss since 2019. In 2024 and 2025, Arab state funding dropped by 90%. Staff salaries and service hours have been cut by 20%. Without new funding, Lazzarini said, the agency will cease to exist.
The abject failure to muster an effective multilateral and international law-based response to the war in Gaza has set the stage for a war outside the bounds of international law that is now spreading across and beyond the Middle East. It has normalized disdain for the rules-based international order.
390 human beings. They went to work to help people in a conflict zone, and they were killed. The international community must answer for that. Now to West Africa, to a country that often does not make the headlines in Europe or North America. But what is happening there demands attention. Burkina Faso. This country has been in a deep security crisis for years. Armed groups control large parts of the territory. The military government that took power in a 2022 coup is fighting them. But according to Human Rights Watch, both sides are committing atrocities. And the civilian population is paying the price. Since 2023, more than 1,800 civilians have been killed. The attacks are targeted. Villages belonging to the Fulani ethnic community have been systematically destroyed. Human Rights Watch published a new report on the 2nd of April. Their investigators documented killings, burnings of entire villages, and forced displacement. Their conclusion is stark. These are crimes against humanity. The Fulani, also called Pule, are one of the largest ethnic groups in West Africa. In Burkina Faso, they have long faced discrimination and suspicion. The military government has accused some Fulani men of links to armed groups. Human Rights Watch says this has been used to justify collective punishment. Entire communities, men, women, and children, are being punished for the actions of some individuals. Human Rights Watch is calling on the International Criminal Court to open an investigation. They are also calling on Burkina Faso's military government to stop the killings. 1,800 civilians. Communities erased. A crisis that is growing while the world looks elsewhere. Now to a story about accountability. About what happens when the powerful are finally held responsible. Bangladesh, South Asia. Between 2007 and 2009, Bangladesh was under military rule. There was no elected government. The army ran the country. During those 2 years, the military intelligence service detained hundreds of people. Many were subjected to torture. Some were killed. Political opponents, journalists, and business people were targeted. For nearly 20 years, no one was held accountable. That changed in late March 2026. Between the 23rd and 30th of March, 3 former army officers were arrested. They are accused of ordering and carrying out torture and murder during the military rule of 2007 to 2009. Source: Human Rights Watch, Bangladesh. Former army spy masters arrested. April 1st, 2026. Human Rights Watch welcomed the arrests, but they also said this is only a beginning. Many more cases remain unresolved. Many survivors still have not received justice. Bangladesh itself has been going through a transition. A student-led movement in 2024 brought down the previous government. Since then, the new authorities have been reopening cases that were previously buried. 3 arrests, 19 years later. It is not enough, but it is a start. We end this week with a number from the United Nations. In 2024, attacks on schools increased by 44%. 52 million children could not go to school because of violence. That is not a number from one country. That is a global statistic. At the Human Rights Council session on the 25th of March, the UN High Commissioner said this clearly.
It is gravely concerning that around the world, attacks on schools are increasing. In 2024, such attacks surged by a shocking 44%, leaving 52 million children out of the classroom.
One of the most documented cases this week was in Iran. The Chachari Taibi Elementary School in Minab. On February 28th, US Tomahawk missiles struck the school. 168 people were killed or affected: pupils, teachers, staff, and their families. The UN Special Rapporteur on the right to education said this:
Whatever differences countries have, we can all agree they will not be solved by killing school children. That is why we have the laws of war to protect children and other civilians caught up in conflict.
This is not a new problem, but the numbers keep getting worse. Every child who cannot go to school because of war is a child whose future is being stolen. 44%, 52 million children. This week, the UN asked governments to stop it. The question is, who will listen?